So hello. Welcome back to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe and also support my small business at latricelimited.com. So today we're actually just going to be talking about what can Americans, the United States of America, learn from Australia's gun law / reform. Okay, so this video it was actually sparked because I actually go on this one website called boredpanda.com. It's a very informative website. You get to see things from other people's point of view, not just some one person that's like, yeah, I traveled all over the world and I seen this and I did this. And there's different topics about different things on there. Okay, and one of them I actually looked at, and it said the topic was like things foreigners should not do in different countries. All right. And then I'm going through them, blah, blah. So this was number 20 on there. All right. And it said Australia. And the person responded and they said, try not to be offended by our sense of humor, as we like to sarcastically make fun of just about everything. Okay. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And it said, also don't discuss our gun laws as we don't have any active shooters in our schools ever. We saw the light when the Port Arthur massacre happened back in 1996. So I'm like, wait, what are they talking about? What's Port Arthur? So then I started doing a little bit of research. So I'm gonna give little examples about that, and then I'm gonna bring it all back how I normally do it. Okay. So I got an article here. And it said on April 28th, 1996, a 28-year-old man with a troubled past, they said that he may have been, well, not may, that he was mentally ill, who his name was Martin Bryant, walked into a cafe in Port Arthur, a tourist town on the island of Tasmania, and opened fire with a semi-automatic rifle. He ended up killing 35 people and he wounded another 28. Now, they also said, and there was a little bit more background, I will link it down below if you guys are interested in knowing about it, a little bit more about the guy and what he ended up doing, because it is rumored that I think it was a lady who got into like a car accident, and he said he didn't have anything to do with it, but it appeared that that may not have been 100% true. Okay, so there's that, so he was already on some, and this was before the massacre. Okay, so he was already on some other stuff, did some nefarious things, and then you add on a gun to that, and then we got bigger problems. Since Australia's prime minister at the time, John Howard, had taken office just 6 weeks earlier at the head of a center-right coalition. Okay, he quickly drew a very close conclusion from the Port Arthur killing that, like I said, killed 35 people and injured 28. All right. It said that he quickly drew to a very clear conclusion from the Port Arthur killing. Australia had way too many guns and they were too accessible to people. Okay, does that sound familiar to anyone? United States and a lot of these southern states as well. Okay, it said, and he said, I knew that I had to use the authority of my office to curb the possession and use of the type of weapons that killed 35 innocent people. And he wrote that in a 2013 op-ed. Howard persuaded both his coalition and Australia's states, the country has a federal system, to agree to a sweeping nationwide reform of gun laws. Okay, the so-called National Firearms Agreement, NFA, drafted the month after. Okay, so the shooting happened. This was in April 28th. And then it was a month after, not 2 years, not 3 years, not 10 months, but a month after. Sharply restricting legal ownership of firearms in Australia. It also established a registry of all guns owned in the country, among other measures. It required a permit for all new firearm purchases. Okay, there's a little bit more to it, but they're not playing games. Okay, you want to have a gun, gotta have a permit. Well, I don't want to get a permit. I just turned 18. You gotta have a permit. You can't get one. It's as simple as that. All right. It also says one of the most significant provisions of the NFA was a flat out ban on certain types of guns, such as automatic and semi-automatic rifles and shotguns. So the NFA said there's no more of these automatic, semi-automatic. Why? One shot, you just killed 10 people. Okay? So, and they even said, I think they said it was 20 people died in 2 minutes of this Bryant guy shooting. 2 minutes, you just killed 20 people. So they're like, these automatic, semi-automatic guns, you can't have them. Oh, but what if I need it for self-protection? And I'll get into those questions that we have. All right. So they're like, these are banned. You can't have these. All right. Australia solved this problem by introducing a mandatory buyback. This is also something that they kind of did in California. It wasn't mandatory, but they did do like a buyback program in California. Now you handed in your gun. I think they gave you like a $50 gas card or something on that line. This is what they ended up doing. Australia states would take away all guns that had just been declared illegal. In exchange, they pay the owners of the guns a fair price set at the national committee using market value as benchmark. So they're not giving you, here's a $50 gas card. You know what I mean? Here's $20. They're giving you what you would have paid for that market value or something in that realm of what you would have paid for that or what you did pay. And they're giving that back to you. So you're not losing too much money, if you are losing any at all, depending on when you got your gun as well. All right. It says to compensate for the loss of the property. So that's why they did it. The NFA also offered legal amnesty for anyone who handed in illegally owned guns, though they weren't compensated. Okay. So if you weren't supposed to have it and you just handed it in, cool. Because if they catch you with it later on, you're done. All right. So it says there were fears that this mandatory buyback would provoke resistance. During one address to a crowd of gun rights supporters, Howard wore a bulletproof vest. Thankfully, nothing ended up happening. Okay. Because people were like, 35 people died, 28 people injured. I could have been one of the 35 or one of the 28 over there. That could have been me. Here you go. And there was no extra. You may have had your people, man, you look at the man trying to do this, but the majority of people were not like, well, this is my ride. It's my ride. They're not doing all that because at the end of the day, they realize like, yo, I could have been of the 35. I could have been of the 28. I could have been one of those people that got injured or died. My sister could have been someone that died or got injured. My brother could have been the same. My cousin, my niece, it goes on, It said about 650,000 legally owned guns were peacefully seized and, wait for it, then destroyed. Not just, okay, I'm going to take your stuff, but we're going to put it in this warehouse. And then oh man, the guns, they just disappeared. Oh my goodness. I don't know how that happened. And then now they're still out. No, they're like, okay, we took him, but these things are gone. We're not doing this anymore. Like we destroyed them. All right. Which this is something that the U.S. can learn. Okay. Everything that I've said, I feel that it could be implemented. Okay. It says part of the buyback. This is what happened. And it says, and this is a different part. It says, my colleague, Daniel Matthews points out, there is good reason why gun restrictions would prevent suicides. So we're talking about guns. We know that suicides are the biggest cause. Guns are the biggest cause for suicides as opposed to just murders. The number is a little bit higher than murders. Okay. Why? I will explain in here. So there's a good reason why gun restrictions would prevent suicides. Suicide is often an impulsive choice, one often not repeated after the first attempt. It says often, not every single time. So maybe you would go and do something else. Okay. But 9 times out of 10, that's what he's saying, you're not going to do something else. Okay. Guns are specifically designed for killing. All right. This right here refutes that whole, just from that. Guns are specifically designed for killing. That immediately refutes that whole, well, cars kill people too. Why don't we ban cars? Well, you got to go to the grocery store in your car. You got to go across town in your got to go to work in your car. You got to do this. Then you can say the same thing about buses if you want to do that too. Okay. But cars are just a method to get you to one location and to another location. Guns, you don't need a gun. Okay. You don't need a gun to go to work. You know what I mean? Unless you are a police officer or something like that. But if you're just working, let's say you work at a warehouse, for example, or at McDonald's, you don't need a gun to go there. But you do need transportation. It's transportation. That entire argument, the fact that I even have to say anything about it is just ridiculous. But whatever. But it says guns are specifically designed for killing, which makes suicide attempts with guns likelier to succeed than if someone were to use razors, to cut themselves, or pills for an overdose. Limiting access to guns makes each attempt more likely to fail. Okay? You want to try to kill yourself, and I have some stats that I will put up. But if you want to try to kill yourself with a gun, 9 times out of 10 is going to be successful. Okay. You also have, and this is even just with the suicides, but you also have it where maybe you got a little Tommy running around. Little Tommy says, "Oh, well, what's this?" Boom. And then they shoot themselves because you have people who, and I don't know why people do this, but you have people who will have a gun laying around, clear view, plain as day. And then little Tommy comes up, and then little Tommy takes the gun and then shoots himself, shoots the sibling, or whatever the case may be. And then people die from that. You have domestic violence situations where you'll have the angry male. That's usually what it is. That's why I'm saying it. You have the angry male who, let's say whoever Tisha is the girl. Okay. He doesn't like it, so he goes and shoots her, so this helps to prevent a lot of these things. Now, granted, would you have some crazy people who, for example, we seen on the train station where he just up and got a knife and stabbed someone? Yeah, you'll see that. But guns make it more lethal and easier to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. As we see in Chicago, we see in Texas, we see in so many other places where you have a rivaling gang or whatever the case they want to call themselves. And they're just shooting. And they just ended up shooting 10 people and they missed the target. Like almost every time they missed the target. Okay, so that is the problem. All right. And I also want to go and explain from this guy the other part I just said. I said the logic for female homicide victimization is similar. Women are disproportionately likely to be murdered by male partners as a part of a pattern of domestic abuse, which is literally what I just said. The easier access to it, deadlier option, 9 times out of 10, she's going to die. Okay. That's just what that is. There's no like, oh, I cut you on your hand. Oh man, I'm so sorry. No, I shoot you in the chest. There's no, I'm so sorry. The person's dead. Okay. 9 times out of 10, that's what will happen. Then they were over here talking about mass shootings and whatnot. Obviously, you take out the gun, you don't have the problem. Okay. So I also have articles from CBS News. I also put it up here as well. And it says the tough new laws ban the sale and importation of all automatic and semi-automatic rifles and shotguns, force people to present a legitimate reason. Okay. Let me repeat that. By doing that, by banning those, it forced people to present a legitimate reason and wait 28 days to buy a firearm. Okay. So there's no, well, I just turned 18 today. Hey, here's my money. I want to buy a gun. 28 days. You're gonna have to wait. But I want to buy it now. You can buy it in 28 days. Okay. We got your stuff in the system. You'll wait 28 days. Why do you need it right now? Unless you're planning on doing some nefarious things with it. All right. And so you also have to have a legitimate reason. And you may say, well, my legitimate reason is it's my right. Okay. That's not a legitimate reason. Okay. And also, and I'll get into why that isn't as well. But you also may say, well, it's for self-protection, right? That's why I have a gun. That's why I have 20 guns. They're all to protect myself. Hey, that may work. Okay. And it said perhaps most significantly called for a massive mandatory gun buyback. Okay. They took, confiscated and destroyed 700,000 firearms. Okay. And it says people used to say to me, Howard told Doanne, it said, you violated my human rights by taking away my gun. All right. That's what everyone always want to say. And I said, I'd tell them, I understand that. Will you please understand the argument that the greatest human right of all is to live in a safe life without the fear of random murder? Why would you want to fear getting murdered going to your local Walmart just because some rando with a gun decided to just up and shoot people, you know? And another part with that. So when I said presenting a legitimate reason for you getting a semi-automatic or whatever the case may be, okay, semi-automatic, whatever you're trying to get. So people be like, well, I need one because it's my right. All right, you're violating my rights. Da 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 da. No. So the United States, we have the rights to bear arms. What people fail to understand about that, though, it's not just, hey, I could just go to the gas station and have my guns right here. Okay, it's in terms of a militia. Okay, so this isn't just like, oh, well, I just wanted to go and use a public bathroom. Hey, let me go and get my gun out, just in case. That's not the reasoning for that. And in their quote unquote constitution, whatever like it's called in Australia, they don't have that over there. Okay. So you may think, well, I have the right to have it. Not really. Okay. And then also with whole thing of a legitimate reason. Okay. You may say, well, it's for self-protection. That's actually one of the rules. You cannot use that for self-protection. Semi-automatic and automatic rifles, they say you got to give me a legitimate reason, and self-protection is not one. So I'm going to assume, because I didn't see exactly what they said on there, I'm going to assume that it's going to be like for some form of hunting and sport. I do know that they have talked about the sport thing. If you do it for like hunting and sports and stuff like that. So I'm going to assume that's what that is for. That would but you can't just say, well, I'm a hunter. Well, you got to show some, you got to show some documentations. Okay. You can't just say, well, I'm going to do it for sports and I'm a hunter and this and that. And hey, give me my gun. Well, let me see your documentation. Because if you really do it, I would have paper in front of me saying that you really do it. And then you still have to wait 28 days for it. Okay. So you can't just say, oh, I need it because someone's going to break into my house. Be like, you can either not have one or you can have a handgun. Why would you need this? The only people that would be, bothered by these rules are people who will be on nefarious things. Why can't you just prove that you need it for XYZ? Why do you need a semi in your house? The problem here in United States, they're like, hey, you can walk around with silencers. You could walk around without any training at all. You don't even have to have training. You could just go and pick up a gun, go to a store, get a gun, and no training. You don't need to do anything. It's not like when you're driving a car, for example. Think about when you were, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay. You got your license. What all did you have to do? Okay. If you did it in school, you took the whole class, you went there, you did a simulation and you're doing all that. Maybe you took the adult, I think it was like adult 8 hours. It was like adult 10 hour, 12 hours, something like that. Course. Maybe you did that. You had to learn how to drive. You had to practice. You always had to have someone over the age of 18 who've had their license, to be in the car with you. You couldn't just go, oh, I'm going to take a car, drive it to a parking lot and do it yourself. You could not do that. There was always these rules. You got to do this. Okay. Let's say you're doing some TSA pre-check. You got to provide all this information. We need to see all these documentations. We need to see this. There's rules put into place. It seems like with every other thing, there's always rule, more rules. We're going to have this, make sure that everything works perfectly fine. You have a pilot, for example, you have a doctor, for example, you have a nurse, whoever, they have to go through education processes. You have to know how to do this. You got to know how to do this. I need to see that you can demonstrate this. I need to see you could demonstrate this. But with a deadly weapon that I could just one thing, one press of the trigger and I just kill 15 people. Oh, well, you don't really need anything for that. But everything else, you need a whole bunch of documentations. You need certifications, years of experience, driving. You need hours. And these hours are not just like, okay, 5 hours. I learned how to drive in 5 hours. You're doing weeks and weeks and weeks And you're going to tell me that you need all this training for all of these different things, but have it be a gun, and then you're like, you don't really need any of that, you guys. You could just go ahead. I just don't want to see it. Just go ahead. But with any other thing, you're like, no, go to DMV. Nah, yeah, you gave me the wrong documentation, honey. This ain't your birth certificate. This thing is expired. No. But with any other thing, it's like, well, it's a gun. It's fine. You're not gonna harm anyone with that. I mean, that's the whole purpose of one, though. So with everything else, it's a problem, in terms of how much documentation you need, how much medical training you need, how many hours, years, whatever, residencies, whatever it is that you're doing. But have it be a gun, and y'all like, well, all I need is for you to be 18 years old, and I don't even care. Come on, so for me, I'm just like, yeah, y'all can miss me with that. So to finish off of this, what can America learn from, or the US learn from Australia's gun laws / reforms? Have mandatory buybacks. And I know people may be, man, but they're so much smaller than us. You could still implement some of this stuff. Mandatory buybacks would be one of the things that you would do. Okay? Give them the money for this. Ban automatic, semi-automatic rifles. Also make it so that every gun is in a registry. I would say have a chip in every gun as well. I need to know when this gun moves. Why would you not need me to know? If you're not supposed to be carrying it out in public anyways, why would this be a problem? Why would it be a problem? You can only have 2 guns, okay? Why do you need 10? Why do you need 15 guns? Why is it a problem? I think it's only a problem for people who want to make it a problem. But those are my thoughts. Those are my opinions. Let me know. I mean, did you guys even know about the kind of laws that Australia had? Do you think that they could realistically be implemented within the United States? Do you think it's something that's like so far-fetched, like, nah, we can't do that over here? Let me know. Let me know what your comments are down below. And until then.